Hello, you're live with BBC News. I'm Anna Foster here in the German city of Magdeburg, a city in shock this afternoon after 5 people were killed and more than 200 were injured when a car last night ploughed into this busy German Christmas market right in the centre of the city. And you can see where I am now, where I'm speaking to you from, just really the aftermath of that attack yesterday evening. You can see these stalls that should at this time on a Saturday afternoon, days away from Christmas, have been a real hive of life and activity and happiness, but instead they are shuttered, even though some of the Christmas lights are still shining. And you can just see scattered on the ground some of the detritus from the attack last night and the efforts that were made to try and treat and save some of those people. You can even see some of the blankets that were used to keep the injured warm, some of the bits of medical equipment that are still around here at the moment. Now, what is happening around us is that police are really starting an intensive investigation to find out more about how this could have happened in an area that should have been secure. There have been attacks on Christmas markets here in Germany before, notably one in Berlin in 2016. And places like this do have security. Just down the road from here, there are big concrete blocks designed to stop cars going in. But what we saw last night was some really graphic CCTV pictures captured from one of the nearby buildings of this car coming off the road and ploughing at speed between these rows of stalls at the Christmas market. You could see people just being thrown out of the way with force. 200 people, as we were saying, have been injured here, really putting pressure on the local hospitals, a lot of people that they've had to treat. And what we have here this afternoon, as well as people, I just want to show you actually around the other side of the camera and just some of the people who've come out here in the city this afternoon. They've come out to lay flowers. They've come to light candles. Many people you can see just on the other side of the road there are just standing in silence and contemplating this scene. And it is a very sizable Christmas market area as well. It's a big square right in the centre of the city. And all the way around to the other side are scenes like this one, people just trying to work out really what happened last night. Some people here in tears, thinking about loved ones, thinking about friends who were involved in that attack yesterday. And many people, as you can see, are laying flowers and are lighting candles as well. Now, the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has been here in the last couple of hours. He has promised a full investigation into what has happened. We know that the man who was arrested is from Saudi Arabia, but he's been here in Germany for nearly 20 years, a doctor, 50 years old. Very little at this stage known officially about his motivation, although Germany's Interior Ministry did say in the last hour or so that they believe that there was possibly an Islamophobic motivation to this attack. But again, there is a lot of detail that we still need to know, that we're still waiting to find out about. And our correspondent, Damien McGuinness, has the latest.
Decorations still festoon Magdeburg's Christmas market, but the mood is desolate as local people try to come to terms with last night's fatal attack. Festive night out turned into a nightmare when a man fatally ploughed a car into a large crowd.
Das Auto ist an uns vorbeigerast.
The car sped past us and the police ran after it. Other emergency services arrived, evacuated people and diverted traffic. People were still panicking and screaming.
The suspected perpetrator, a Saudi-born doctor who first came to Germany in 2006, has been arrested. Police are still working to uncover the motive. With all of Germany in shock, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has come to the site of the tragedy together with regional leaders.
Was für eine furchtbare Tat ist das?
It is a dreadful tragedy that so many people were killed and injured. It is a dreadful catastrophe. We send our sympathy to those who are injured and I express the solidarity of the entire country.
The devastation left behind by the attack at the Christmas market is still very visible. Politicians were just here a few minutes ago to pay their respects, but the mood is febrile. Local people were shouting and booing as politicians left because they feel the security just wasn't good enough. Christmas markets are a traditional part of German life at this time of the year, something everyone goes to, so people are in shock, asking why this happened.
Well, it is so sad that something like this happens. We are protecting ourselves with bollards and everything. It is terrible, especially now at Christmas time.
As people here mourn, the search for an answer goes on.
And that really is the prevailing mood here this afternoon, that sense of solemnity, that sense of mourning, that sense of real shock and disbelief that just a few hours ago something so terrible happened in the heart of this community, and people really still unable to work out why or to get the answers that they so seek. And of course, we're hearing those stories as well from people who were here as this happened. It was so unexpected. Damien was talking there about some of the security. There are big concrete blocks around parts of this Christmas market to separate the road and the market stalls. But of course, it looks in this case very much like there was one that just wasn't small enough to actually make a gap that a car couldn't get through. And that is how all of this unfolded last night. And people have been really describing those scenes that happened yesterday evening.
Well, this is quite touching. We saw how they were guided away. We saw all the blood. It was quite extreme. Well, we were happy. We went carousel riding with our child. I have a 9-year-old son, and he was so happy. Thank God we were not exactly where it happened. Yes, and it was quite moving. We all helped where we could. We received gloves and thermos blankets. It was touching. I don't want to experience this again.
Well, as you heard Damien McGuinness say in his report, Olaf Scholz, the German Chancellor, has been here along with regional leaders as well. Olaf Scholz laid a flower, a white rose, actually just at the other side of the market. You can see through here between the buildings and the stalls, and then you can just about see a large church that's rising into the sky over there. Now, just in front of that, we've seen now many, many people laying flowers. That's a real focal point for flowers and candles for people to gather and to express, as we saw when Olaf Scholz was here, dissatisfaction at the security, but also really to come together and think about what happened here last night. And I just want to play you in full now what the German Chancellor had to say just a couple of hours ago, just outside that church on the other side of the market.
Normally, a Christmas market is a very peaceful and joyful place. People come together just before Christmas, in Advent, in the run-up to Christmas, to enjoy Christmas, to think about Christmas, to drink Glühwein and to eat grilled sausages. What a dreadful tragedy it is that so many people were injured and killed with such brutality in a place like that. We've now heard that more than 200 people have been injured. There are 5 fatalities so far. And so many people are critically injured that we are severely concerned about what will happen to them. It's a dreadful catastrophe. We'd all like to express our empathy and sympathy to those who are injured and to the families of those who are injured, to the families of those who have been killed. And I'd like to express the solidarity of the entire country. We're all profoundly touched and shocked by this, and we need to stand together and pull together, and will indeed do so. It's very impressive that so many people stepped in to help immediately, including all the people who are working at the Christmas market and visiting the Christmas market. It's impressive to see that the police and the fire brigade responded so rapidly, and many people came to help to really provide tangible assistance straight away. It was very moving for me to talk to the people who were working here as first responders. After you've had that kind of event, it affects everybody. Everybody has to respond rapidly, and the professional response has meant the situation's not even worse than it already is. At the same time, though, we know that this is something that helpers will also be affected by. The emergency service will have to struggle with the memory of this as well. Right across Germany, providing support to the emergency services in this kind of situation, so that nobody is left alone with their memories. And that's even more the case for those who are injured, for the families for the families of the victims as well. We're providing support in hospitals and moving forward as well to get to grips with this catastrophe and its ramifications, these innocent victims of this dreadful, crazy deed. It's important now that we investigate in detail with great precision what has happened. We need to look into all of the background to this deed. We're providing all of the resources required to do that. Of course, we need to investigate the perpetrator in depth and his deed. And of course, subsequently draw the requisite consequences and respond. What's important to me is that when you have this kind of atrocity happening, this kind of dreadful incident with so many people killed and injured, it's almost actually to the day, the anniversary of the attack at Breitscheidplatz in Berlin. And it's important to me that we stand united, that we talk to each other, we enter into dialogue, that we do not disseminate hatred. We remain a community that has a shared future. We should not allow those who wish to sow hate to do so. But of course, the perpetrators cannot get off scot-free. They must be punished for what has happened in all cases. That is also part and parcel of our shared future. I've heard and experienced a great deal of solidarity from all over the world. Many people have sent personal messages and written personal messages. It's very positive to hear that we in Germany are not alone with these challenges and dealing with this catastrophe. So thank you to all of you. Once again, thank you to everybody who's helped. Thank you to the first responders, the emergency services. And of course, we'd like to express our solidarity to all of those who have been injured, the citizens of Magdeburg, those who have been killed, their families. Everybody, of course, will be dealing with this profound grief over the days to come.
The German Chancellor Olaf Scholz there, talking about the hospitals, talking about the first responders, talking about the victims, but also talking about the investigation that's going to happen now. Now, you might be able to hear in the background, there's some raised voices because people are already talking about the motivation behind this attack. There's not a great deal of detail at this stage. Was it political? Was it religious? We know that the man who's been arrested, the suspect, is a 50-year-old doctor from Saudi Arabia who'd been here in Germany for 18, 19 years now. The German Interior Ministry said just in the last hour or so that Islamophobia was a motivation, a potential motivation that they were looking at. But certainly people here and remember what has happened here in recent times politically in terms of immigration, religion. There's a lot going on in the background here, a lot of different subtext. So people really do want answers to the question of how this could have happened, how this could have been allowed to happen, and what motivated it. And one person who has started to address that is the state premier of this particular area, Rainer Hasselhoff, who was speaking earlier.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're in the spot where a dreadful event happened, a horrible tragedy. We've just been talking to the Federal Chancellor and representatives from the federal government. We've visited the scene with them. This is a place which will always be linked to the history of Magdeburg now. It will become a site of commemoration and will enter the annals of our history in that spirit. That is really dreadful.
200 Verletzte, davon viele schwerst verletzt und schwer verletzt. Und das ist eine Dimension, die keiner von uns überhaupt vorstellen konnte. Wir haben gerade mit den Rettungskräften und der Feuerwehr sprechen können. Es ist bisher
over 200 people who are injured, many who are critically injured or badly injured.
Und in Europa geben kann.
And this is an order of magnitude that none of us could have imagined.
Auf der anderen Seite war es
We
wichtig,
talked
dass
to the
wir
people from the fire brigade and the emergency responders. It was quite astonishing. It was unimaginable that something like this could happen in Germany, in the middle of Europe.
Rainer Hasselhoff there, the state premier, speaking here at the scene not too long ago as people continue to come out here, continue to light flowers, light candles, lay flowers, cuddly toys. That's happening really all around this market square. But as I said before, you can also hear alongside the solemnity and the silence, sometimes the raised voices, the criticism of politicians in particular. So I think there are a few things, Lewis, that we're really sort of waiting to hear more about now, the investigation, the motivation behind this attack. But also we know that 5 people were tragically killed here last night in this market, 200 were injured, and some of their names and stories will no doubt start to emerge in the next few hours and days as well.
Okay. Anna, thank you very much for that. We will be back with Anna a little later. Now, though, we're going to speak to Phil Carr, Director of Fossetti Training, which trains security officers on how to respond to incidents like this. Thank you for coming on the programme.
Right, thank you for having me.
Could you just talk us through, first of all, then, what kind of training would have gone in to try and make secure an event like this?
So there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that people don't realise a long time before events, with risk assessments and planning and everything else. And we look at the security on this. We're already talking about security failings. We've had our own security failings at Manchester Arena, which has taken 7 years to correct with Martin's Law. But a lot of those focus on the fact that security can make a huge improvement. But we do have to be fluid in our approach, because things do change very, very quickly. Even leading up to these situations. So we need to be prepared for that.
But what kind of security changes can happen when things happen so fast? If we've got something like a speeding vehicle, it feels like there's very little that can be done in the moment. The only thing that could be done is trying to secure the area beforehand.
So beforehand, we do look at risk assessments, and HVM plays a huge role in that. HVM is hostile vehicle mitigation, and there's several systems out there. Even we've got portable systems.
So what do you mean by that? So we just saw pictures there of the huge concrete blocks that we're kind of used to seeing that. What else is there?
They're more of a fixed position, whereas we have a group we work with called Protect Alliance. One of the members there deals in HVM, and they have some equipment which means that it can actually be rolled into place, which means that they could actually measure the distances there and then. So if they do spot an incident, that they can actually adjust it quite quickly, and it's highly effective equipment. In the UK, we do have these things, and our security operatives go through something called the NACSO training, which teaches them a lot about looking for hostile behaviour before events happen, so we can raise the alarm. The lessons learned from the Manchester Arena are filtering through.
And is it a case that you can't basically leave any gaps now in barriers, whether they're fixed or whether they're permanent or semi-permanent? You just won't be able to leave any gaps wide enough for a car to go through, or is that in any way practical?
I think there's always a solution, and there's a lot of factors that come into the results of that. But what we have to remember is that when people are looking to plan these type of attacks, they're looking for the weaknesses, they're looking for the softer targets. And unfortunately, they always find them. It's the people who don't think it will happen to them that it normally happens to, because the preparation is not quite there, because it's just like, it's never happened to us, it will never happen to us. So they do some preparation, and the opposite side are more alert to this.
And what about numbers? What about resources? Is it a case that simply you always could do with more people on the ground, more people involved in those risk assessments beforehand, and more people there at the events themselves?
There's always scope for hindsight to turn around and saying we could put more security, more eyes on the ground, we could put more cameras, we could put more HVM in. They do have strict policies that they have to follow for legal requirements in order to hold these events. So a lot of people are meeting those requirements. But there's moralities like, well, where do you draw the line? Because these events are put on as a business, and they do have to consider factors like that within their planning. We could put 400, 500 security officers on an event of like 1,000 people. But if something happens, we'll always question, was that enough? So it's a very difficult question to answer in that respect. With hindsight, yes, we can do more. But in planning, they're doing what what is necessary.
And just lastly, is there any kind of technology either available now or coming down the track shortly that can really help with that very fast response to very quick moving security breaches that happened like last night?
Absolutely. So we focus a lot on the first aid side of things, and security operatives in the UK now have to be first aid trained. And we're seeing, with the advent of problems we have over here, the introduction of bleed kits and the items like tourniquets and hemostats coming in. Security operatives are in a position where they can respond exceptionally quick to these circumstances. We're not taking anything away from the emergency services. They are amazing and they are brilliant at what they do. But it does take minutes to get them there. With security operatives, we are normally on top of situations. So them having that equipment can mean the difference between talking about injuries and deaths, unfortunately.